News for Jax reporter Vic Micolucci joins us live from Marine 4 in the river. And Vic, you're hearing how long it's going to take to get this thing out.
Bruce, this is one step closer to removing that plane from the shallow waters just off the runway at NAS Jacksonville. The big question is, how long is it going to take? We don't know that just yet, but I just talked with a spokesperson for NAS Jacksonville, and she told us that crews are hoping to have this plane, the 737, up on the barge by sundown. Now, given they have a lot of things that they have to do, the main thing is get straps under that plane. So you have divers that are going underneath the plane, and they're going to put these giant straps on there, and then they're going to use those to attach them to the plane to hoist it up and then get that crane to put it onto the barge. Now, we are out here on the St. Johns River. The plane is in the distance over there. By the way, big thank you to Freedom Boat Club. They're the ones that took us out here. They're showing us around. They are manning our Marine 4 unit here as we get more details. We also have the Sky 4 helicopter up. Sky 4 giving us bird's eye aerials showing us, and I got to fly in it yesterday to see the situation. This is still a all hands on deck situation. All flights in and out of NAS Jacksonville, their Navy, are canceled for the time being. We have a lot of crews here, environmental resource crews, doing everything they can to make sure that you don't have any issues with leakage into the St. Johns River. So again, hoping sometime by the end of today, the crews can get that plane out of the shallow water onto a crane with straps and then put it onto the barge and eventually bring it to a safe and secure location as NTSB continues to investigate what happened here. We're live in the St. Johns River with the Freedom Boat Club. I'm Vic Micolucci, Channel 4, the local station.
So, Vic, what's the main concern with removing the plane from the river, making sure that there's not a bigger jet fuel spill?
Well, they have removed all of the fuel, Bruce. So what we understand is they pulled out 1,200 gallons of fuel. We believe that that means about 400 gallons leaked into the St. Johns River. Now, there were a lot of crews that came out here to contain the situation as quickly as possible. So hopefully they got most of that up. But yes, that is a concern. The riverkeeper telling us that the environmental impact appears to be minimal. That is good news. And of course, you have multiple people working on getting this out. So they have to make sure that they can remove such a large aircraft without anybody in danger.
Also, maintaining the structure of the airplane has to be a big concern because they don't want to compromise the integrity of the airplane itself.
Correct. Absolutely. Right. And they have to be very careful. They want it as intact as possible for the NTSB investigation.
Vic Micolucci live aboard Marine 4. Thank you.
Other big story this afternoon, the Boeing 737 plane that slid off the runway at NAS Jacksonville has been lifted out of the St. Johns River. Contractors put it on a barge and will eventually move it to another location for analysis by the NTSB. Reporter Vic Micolucci is joining us live as this is happening. Vic, we've been watching contractors carefully hoisting that plane out of the water by crane. Is it all the way out of the water now?
It is, Tark, and actually in the past 5 minutes, they dropped it onto that barge very gracefully, very gently, and they just took off the straps. You had two straps from two separate cranes, one on each side. So they almost made a triangle over there, and they lifted it up out of the water with help from divers who put those straps underneath the plane. And very slowly, they made sure that the barges, the cranes were in place. They lifted it up, and within the matter of about an hour to an hour and a half, they maneuvered a third barge down the middle, and they slowly lowered that plane onto the barge. Now, there are dozens of people part of this operation. You, of course, have Moran Environmental Recovery. They are the people that own the barges and the cranes there, but you also have the Coast Guard, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Jacksonville Fire and Rescue, among other agencies working. The goal here is to get the plane out of the water, which they did, and then get it to a safe place where the NTSB can do a full investigation, a full inspection. They weren't able to do that when it was in the St. Johns River. Now, we just spoke with Ed Booth, a pilot and aviation attorney. He's News4JAX's aviation expert. He told us They're likely going to take this to a dry storage facility, possibly build a temporary shelter around it. We think that that's going to be south of where we are, possibly in Clay County. They're going to go under the Buckman Bridge. It's a large bridge, and it's easier than going north to the Talleyrand-Jacksport area, so they're going to do that. I also want to mention that the Sky 4 helicopter is overhead. We've had the chopper back and forth since this happened Friday night, giving you details, giving you a bird's eye perspective. We do not know when they plan on moving this plane right now. You are looking live through our cameras out here. We have been on the boat since about 11:30 with Freedom Boat Club. So we are out here on Marine 4 with the Freedom Boat Club. We're going to continue to monitor this situation. As soon as it starts moving down the river, of course, we will let you know. For now, we're live in the St. Johns River. I'm Vic Michelucci, Channel 4, the local station.
That will be quite a sight, the plane going underneath the Buckman Bridge if that happens. Vic Michelucci, thank you for that report.
News 4 Jax reporter Vic Michelucci has been aboard our Marine 4 with the Freedom Boat Club all day. He's joining us with how contractors got the plane out of the water. Vic.
Kent and Mary, it was no easy task. We're talking about 90,000 pounds of aircraft there in the shallow part of the St. Johns River just off from the NAS Jacksonville runway. They started doing this early in the morning, but in fact they began planning days before. Now that we are 5 days after that plane plunged into the water after skidding off the runway in bad weather. Want to show you what we're looking at live here. You see that big yellow barge with the crane on it? That is one of the 2 vessels that was used to actually triangulate and lift up that plane. Now, how did they do it? I'm going to show you over this way now. The other barge is there with the plane on it, and then to the right is a third barge with another crane. So basically, they put the plane in between these 2 cranes. They lifted it up after divers swam underneath with giant straps and then connected them to the crane. And then they maneuvered in the third barge to be able to slowly lower that crane onto the deck. Now, we do have Sky 4 overhead. The helicopter for Channel 4 has been here all day and all weekend monitoring the progress. So that's giving you a secondary viewpoint. But I want to go back to some video that we shot from our Marine 4 here aboard with Freedom Boat Club. You can see just the effort. There were dozens of people making sure that this very meticulous process went off without any issues. And out here in the St. Johns River, we saw a lot of spectators, people who just wanted to see such a feat.
So this is our second day out here to see the plane.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's not something you see every day. I mean, I've never seen a plane in the St. Johns River, and I've lived here my whole life. I think if the water was a little deeper, or if they would have gone off a little bit more into the deeper water, it probably would have been worse. So thankfully, it's very shallow right there, and they didn't go out that far.
So now the crews are battling daylight, and that's why they have made the decision not to ship that plane down to Green Cove Springs, where there is a dry dock. They're going to wait until tomorrow morning if the conditions are right. So they're going to go down south on the St. Johns River. They're going to go under the Buckman Bridge and then take it to a dry dock at a Green Cove Springs marina there. And that's where they're going to hoist it up, look at it, let the NTSB do this full investigation. Now, this is a joint effort between contractors from Moran Environmental Contracting and Mobro Marine. They are the 2 big names out here working to make this big project happen. As far as going under the Buckman Bridge, which is out there in the distance, I did speak with a sergeant with the Florida Highway Patrol. He said state troopers will be on hand to make sure the traffic moves smoothly. And he wants to tell people you are not allowed to stop on the bridge to take a look at that plane. Watch it on TV, watch it through our Sky 4 helicopter. Do not try to watch it from the Buckman Bridge. Of course, we'll keep you posted. For now, we are live in the St. Johns River. I'm Vic Michelucci, Channel 4, the local station.
Vic, that's really good advice, too, for drivers, for sure. We just got this new information in, too. They have now retrieved, actually, the cockpit voice recorder. So that's a big key element for the investigation.
Yeah, and Vic, we want to know who's going to foot the bill, that is, for all of this. Clearly, it's a pretty big process.
Kent, a lot of people are asking that question, so I called the spokeswoman for the Navy. Her name is Kaylee LaRock. She told us it is not a military or government bill here, so the contractors have been hired by Miami Air's insurance company. That insurance company is going to take care of the costs, which we can only imagine to be very expensive.
Cranes hoisted the plane out of the river about 2.5 hours ago, allowing investigators access to that voice recorder for the first time since the plane ended up in the river Friday night. All 143 people on board survived.
And News4Jax reporter Scott Johnson is looking into the potential of lawsuits from passengers. We begin, though, with News4Jax reporter Vic Micolucci, who's been aboard our Marine 4 with the Freedom Boat Club following the work to move this plane. Vic.
And Kent and Mary, it has been a long process and a whole lot of work for the contractors who certainly have their jobs cut out for them. So in the past hour, they moved the plane on this big barge about a quarter of a mile south to the other side of NAS Jacksonville. I know that it's backlit, we're looking into the sun, but there is your plane sitting there a couple hundred yards off from the base. Now let me walk you to the back of the boat. We're here aboard this Freedom Boat Club vessel, part of Marine 4, part of our fleet here. Now look over there. You can see the air traffic control tower. To the right is the runway that it skidded off of. It was a couple dozen feet off of the grass, off of the bulkhead there on the tip of NAS Jacksonville. So I want to show you some video from our Sky 4 helicopter flying overhead. That helicopter has been overhead for the past couple of days monitoring this progress. Crews, they have been planning for this all through the weekend. They started the actual recovery process today. That's after they were able to siphon out about 1,200 gallons of fuel. Now I want to show you a video that we shot a little earlier around 3:30, 4 o'clock from our Marine 4 vessel. We saw the process as they had divers from these contractor teams go underneath the plane with two very large, and I mean strong straps. They took those straps and then they brought in two barges, one on each side of the plane. Each barge had its own crane. They attached the straps to the crane and very slowly, carefully, and meticulously, they raised that plane out of the water. That happened about 3:45. Then they brought in a third barge. That barge went in between the two barges with the crane on it, and they slowly lowered that plane onto the barge. After that, they came, they did security checks on it. They did everything that they could to make sure that it was safe, that there aren't any environmental issues or issues to the crews here. And then they moved it, like I said, to the other side of the base. Now, tomorrow morning is when that big journey to Green Cove Springs in Clay County is going to be. You've got dry docks there. They're going to take the barge with the plane on it all the way down south under the Buckman Bridge. I have been talking with the Florida Highway Patrol Sergeant Dylan Bryan through this process, and he says state troopers are ready. They're going to be on both sides of the bridge, also on the hump, just to make sure that there aren't any spectators on the bridge stopping, slowing down, trying to get pictures. That is a very dangerous scenario with the Buckman Bridge, and it is prohibited. The Florida Highway Patrol warning people, watch it on TV, watch it from the shoreline. Do not try to catch a glimpse of this when it goes under the Buckman Bridge. For now, we're live in the St. Johns River. I'm Vic Micolucci, Channel 4, the local station.
Vic, it's fascinating just to see the process of how they're working to try and get that plane moving. What can you tell us about the contractors who are involved in this?
Well, the main contractor here is Moran Environmental Recovery. They are from Massachusetts, but they have two large offices here in the Jacksonville area. One is in Jacksonville, Talleyrand, and then the other one is in Atlantic Beach, so near Mayport. So they certainly know what they are doing, and they're using another contractor for the barges and for the cranes. That is Mobro Marine. We also heard from them. So they are working hand in hand in the process. A lot of people, Kent, asking about the cost. I asked the Navy officials about that. They say the military, the government, taxpayers are not paying for that. That is going to come from the insurance company for Miami Air, and we can only guess it is going to be a very expensive tab once they get it.
All right, Vic Micolucci reporting from in the St. Johns River tonight. Thank you, Vic.
737 went under the Buckman Bridge this morning about 10 minutes before 10, but its journey isn't over yet. We have crews on the ground, on the river, and Sky 4 has been following the barge all morning. News4Jax reporter Scott Johnson has been with the Freedom Boat Club on Marine 4. Scott, what's next for the plane in this journey?
Well, it's probably going to be a little while, Bruce. That's it right there. The 737 has slowly been going upriver all the way from up by NAS Jackson, and we have been trailing it ever since. It's been a slow slog here with Fish and Wildlife as well as the Coast Guard on each side of it. I want to take us back a little while ago as we followed this thing. It went under the Buckman Bridge without any problems earlier. It's got about 117-foot wingspan, which was short enough to be able to get through the pylons there at the bridge. And they continue to head down toward a facility in Green Cove Springs down near the Shands Bridge, where they will be able to work on the plane and investigate it. Guys, if you could take me back live if I'm not. The one thing that is that blue wrap around the front of the fuselage, that's an interesting thing we want to ask questions about what that is protecting. Don't know if that's where some of the damage was. And as you can see, some of the cargo doors open there on the side up top. So offloading this will be somewhat of an interesting task, but they continue to move toward Green Cove. I want to ask my cameraman, David, if you could pan to the left down in the distance, if you could zoom in. You might be able to see how far we are from the dock down in Green Cove Springs, southern Green Cove, by the Shands Bridge, where they will eventually offload the 737. So that is the eventual destination. So we are continuing to follow it, as is Sky 4. But here in Marine 4, we're going to sign off as we watch this make its way through northern Green Cove Springs, where we are right now. Scott Johnson, Channel 4, the local station.